Welcome to Truthful Manipulation. In a world where truth is bent, facts are framed, and influence is too often used without conscience, this podcast stands for something different. I'm Dave Kelsey, along with H. Daniel Mujahid, and together we expose manipulation, defend integrity, and help you see clearly in a world determined to confuse you. Welcome back to Truthful Manipulation Podcast, where we do our best to separate truth from theater, wisdom from wealth, and leadership from a guy standing on a yacht telling you how hard life is. I'm Dave.
And I'm Daniel. And we would like to discuss with you today the impact of billionaires, bullhorns, and the bull they sell.
We're asking a question a whole lot of people are thinking, but not enough people are saying out loud. Why is it that billionaires think that they know best for normal people? And maybe the bigger question is, why do normal people keep buying the bull they're selling?
Now, before somebody emails us and says, "Are you against success?" No, we're not.
Nope.
We are not against success.
We're not against hard work.
We are not against innovation.
We're not against people building something from the ground up.
But we are absolutely against the idea that because a person has $1 billion, they automatically have $1 billion worth of wisdom.
Men in suits, billionaires to boot, because they got money. They think they own us, honey. As we search for gasoline, they didn't even give us Vaseline. Gave them access to our treasure, now they spend it at their pleasure. Line their pockets as they rob every American, every job. Run the government like the mob. Try to get us to hate each other like that's their job. Supreme Court's in their pocket. We know they got a plan, only supporting their own clan. Keeping their power and their pride while killing Americans and Americans inside. We're here to say you're not turning the USA into the good old-fashioned KKK. Because some folks have $1 billion and still can't tell you the price of a gallon of gasoline, the cost of an overpriced prescription, and what it feels like when your car makes a noise and your first thought is, please, God, don't let that be the transmission.
Yeah, that sound right there. It'll make you grow in spirituality real quick.
You hear the clunk and suddenly you're negotiating directly with heaven.
Lord, I haven't been perfect, but I did let that guy merge last Tuesday.
That should count for something. Today we're going to talk about truthful manipulation behind extreme wealth, not envy, not anger, not jealousy. We're talking about influence. We're talking about messaging, and we're talking about how self-interest gets dressed up like public service.
And how billionaires, sell normal people policies that often protect the billionaires first, while convincing the normal persons, you and I, that it's all about freedom, opportunity, and the American dream.
Or as I call it, trickle-down theater.
With very expensive curtains.
And somehow the tickets still get sold to the people in the cheap seats.
Yep, that's the show.
Let's start here. Extreme wealth can do something dangerous to a person. It can confuse financial success with moral wisdom.
Yep, that's the key chart line.
A billionaire might know how to build a company,
or buy a company,
or crush a company,
or buy 3 companies, rename them something weird, fire half of the staff, and call it innovation.
That too. A billionaire may understand capital, leverage, market, tax shelters, lawyers, loopholes, mergers, acquisitions, and how to say shareholder value with a straight face.
But that does not mean they understand the life of a teacher trying to buy classroom supplies with his or her own money.
It doesn't mean they understand a nurse working 12 hours on her feet, then going home tired to take care of herself.
It does not mean they understand a truck driver trying to beat the clock, pay the bills, and keep the country moving while somebody in a boardroom calls him a labor cost.
It doesn't mean they understand a single parent staring at the grocery receipt like it just committed a crime.
Yeah, because, grocery receipts today look like ransom notes.
You go in for bread, eggs, and a bag of apples, and suddenly you're applying for financing.
Would you like to make 3 easy payments?
On bananas?
But here's where the manipulation comes in. Billionaires, they often speak as if success in one area makes them qualified to redesign every area.
They build a company, so now they think they can rebuild education.
They disrupt an industry, so now they think they can disrupt democracy.
They made money on technology, so now they think they understand morality.
They learned how to scale a business, so now they think human beings are just departments on a spreadsheet.
And that right there is the danger. When people become numbers, empathy gets outsourced.
And when empathy gets outsourced, the invoice always comes due for normal people only.
Now, billionaires rarely walk up to a microphone and say what they actually mean.
Yeah, because that would be bad branding.
Exactly. They don't say, I want policies to protect my fortune. They say, I know how to make the country better.
They don't say, lower my taxes so I can keep more of my billions.
They say, we need to unleash the economy. They don't say, we need weaker labor power. They say, we need efficiency.
They don't say, I want fewer regulations so my company can do what it wants. They say, we need to cut red tape.
They don't say, I need government to protect my empire. They say, I'm fighting for freedom.
Freedom is a very popular costume.
Oh, freedom gets worn to every party.
Tax cuts, freedom.
Deregulation, freedom.
Union busting, freedom.
This episode is brought to you by Truthful Manipulation, a roadmap to live by. Now listen, this isn't your average book that sits on a shelf looking smart while nobody reads it.
You mean like the books people buy for the background of Zoom calls?
Exactly, the books that are angled just right so people know you're deep.
Nothing says wisdom like an unread hardcover behind your left shoulder.
But Truthful Manipulation is different. The book is about recognizing manipulation before it recognizes your weaknesses. It's about ethics, influence, integrity, power, propaganda, persuasion, and the little tricks people use to make you believe that their agenda is your idea. And if you've ever asked, why did I believe that? If you've ever watched powerful people twist language until wrong sounds right, and if you've ever felt like the world's selling you something that doesn't match the receipt, this book's for you.
And unlike a billionaire's speech, this one actually comes with a moral compass.
Pick up Truthful Manipulation, a roadmap to live by, and start seeing the game behind the game before it plays you. And now back to this week's show.
Let's talk about one of the reasons people buy this message, the halo effect.
That sounds like something a billionaire would name his yacht.
The halo effect.
Docked right next to tax deduction.
And the offshore account.
With a little dinghy named Middle Class Sacrifice.
But seriously, the halo effect means when somebody succeeds in one area, people assume they must be brilliant in other areas too.
So because a person made money in software, people assume they understand schools?
Because a person built rockets, people assume they understand ethics?
Because a person bought a media platform, people assume they understand free speech.
Because a person owns a chain of something, people assume they understand society?
And let me tell you, owning a lot of something doesn't automatically mean you understand anything outside of owning a lot of something.
That's right. A rich person can be brilliant at one thing and dangerously shallow at another.
Which is true for everybody.
Exactly.
I can run a business. Doesn't mean you want me performing dental surgery.
Please do not let Dave near your molars.
I got a cordless drill in confidence.
That's how lawsuits begin.
But the public does this all the time. We see money and assume wisdom. We see fame and assume truth. We see a private jet and assume leadership.
But sometimes a private jet only proves one thing.
What's that?
You don't wait in line with the people you're giving advice.
That's it. Because the person who never waits in line, never gets denied, never has to choose between a medical bill and a car repair, that person may not be the best person to explain what normal people need.
They may understand markets.
But do they understand consequences?
They may understand profit.
Do they understand pressure?
They may understand power.
Do they understand pain? Here's another reason people buy it. Money buys microphones.
And if you own enough microphones, your opinion starts sounding like common sense.
That's the real danger. A billionaire can fund campaigns.
They can fund think tanks.
They can fund media platforms.
They can fund foundations.
And they fund organizations with names like Citizens for Responsible Freedom.
Which usually means 3 citizens, 14 lawyers, and a billionaire behind a curtain.
Exactly. And suddenly their personal preference becomes public movement.
Now that's what we call manipulation.
Not because rich people aren't allowed to have opinions.
They are.
Not because wealthy people can't support causes.
They can.
But when a person's wealth gives them a louder voice than millions of people combined, we have to stop pretending it's just free speech. That's speech with a sound system normal people can't afford.
That's not a town hall. That's a concert venue.
And the rest of us are outside trying to hear through the walls.
A normal person posts an opinion online and gets 12 likes, 3 angry comments, and 1 cousin who misunderstands everything.
Yeah, every family has that cousin.
A billionaire posts an opinion and it moves markets, shapes policy, dominates cable news, and suddenly people are arguing about it at Thanksgiving.
And nobody even passed the mashed potatoes yet.
That's how you ruin the gravy.
But again, this is about influence. When money becomes messaging, we have to ask, who wrote the script?
Who paid for the stage?
Who benefits from the applause?
And who gets stuck cleaning up after the show?
And paying for the bill. Another reason normal people buy billionaires' messaging is because of the dream, the big dream.
The one day this could be you dream.
That dream is powerful.
That it is.
And there's nothing wrong with wanting to succeed. There's nothing wrong with wanting to build wealth. There's nothing wrong with ambition.
Yeah, ambition can be healthy.
But manipulation starts when people convince you to defend a system that's hurting you because you think one day you might be sitting at the top of it.
Yeah, that's the hard truth there, Dave.
It is.
People defend billionaires' tax breaks like they already have the money.
They defend deregulation like they own the factory.
They defend anti-worker policies like they aren't a worker.
And they defend corporate power like they're on the board.
But they're not on the board.
They're on the schedule.
Oh, no, that hurts, Dave.
Truth has a way of not being a cushion.
And this is where the dream becomes a leash.
Exactly. Because people are told, don't question the billionaire, become the billionaire.
Don't challenge the rules. Win under the rules.
Don't ask why the game's rigged, just play harder.
Don't ask why the ladder is missing rungs. Just climb faster.
Meanwhile, the people at the top are greasing the ladder and selling motivational books from the balcony.
Chapter 1, Mindset.
Chapter 2, Ignore Structural Inequality.
Chapter 3, Wake up at 4 a.m.
I hate that chapter.
You don't want to wake up at 4 a.m.
I don't want anybody giving moral advice before sunrise.
That's fair.
At 4 a.m., the only thing I trust in is a fire alarm.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and realized later that somebody talked you into something you never actually believed? Have you ever watched a leader, a company, a political figure, or even somebody in your personal life twist words until manipulation sounded like love, loyalty, faith, or freedom? That's why we created Truthful Manipulation. Not to make people cynical, to make people awake. The book, Truthful Manipulation, A Roadmap to Live By, gives you a framework to recognize the pressure, decode the language, and protect your integrity before somebody else spins it for you.
I like that. Before somebody else spends it for you.
Because integrity has value. And once you let somebody else cash it in, you may not like what they buy with it. Get the book. Listen to our podcast. Join the conversation. Because manipulation loses power when truth learns how to speak. And now, back to the show.
Let's talk about confidence.
Yeah, the great American substitute for being correct.
Exactly. There are people who speak so confidently they almost forget to check if they're making sense.
That's dangerous.
It is, because confidence can sound like competence.
A person can be wrong at full volume.
And some people treat volume like evidence.
The louder the voice, the more they think it must be true.
Which is why some folks should not be given microphones, megaphones, or comment sections.
But billionaires often have a special type of confidence.
Oh, yes.
The kind of confidence that comes from rarely being told no.
When nobody tells you no, you start mistaking agreement for genius.
Yeah, no, that's a line there.
And it's true. Imagine living in a world where people laugh at jokes that aren't funny.
That's dangerous.
Where people nod at ideas that aren't good.
Even more dangerous.
Where people praise your instincts because your paycheck depends on your mood.
Extremely dangerous.
That's how a person loses touch with reality while being surrounded by people.
Because the room is full, but the truth is absent.
That's why normal people need to be careful when billionaires say, "Trust me."
The response should be, why?
And when they say, "Because I'm successful," the response should be, at what?
Successful at making money?
That's one thing.
Successful at building a community?
That's another.
Successful at protecting workers?
Another.
Successful at telling the truth when it costs you something?
Now we're getting closer to character.
One of the biggest tells in billionaire messaging is the word we.
Oh, yes, the royal we.
They say, we need to tighten our belts.
But their belt's made in Italy and costs more than your dishwasher.
They say, we all need to sacrifice.
But their sacrifice is flying the smaller private jet.
They say, we need to reduce spending.
But somehow subsidies, contracts, and special treatment for their industries stay magically sacred.
They say, we need to compete globally.
Which often means you need to accept less so I can keep more.
There it is.
That's the translation. And this is where language becomes camouflage. The word we sounds shared.
It sounds patriotic.
It sounds responsible.
It sounds like everybody's in the boat together.
But if one person's in a yacht and the other person's bailing water out of a canoe, that's not the same boat.
Well, that's just a visual, huh?
That's reality.
And normal people need to start translating the language.
When they say freedom, ask, freedom from whom?
When they say efficiency, ask, efficient for whom?
When they say sacrifice, ask, who's sacrificing?
When they say growth, ask, who gets the growth?
And when they say shared prosperity, ask, where's my share?
And when they say, trust me, I know what's best for working people, ask them when they last worked a double shift.
And then ask them when they last packed lunch because eating out was too expensive.
Ask them when they last prayed the check cleared before the auto pay hit.
Ask them when they last fixed something with duct tape, hope, and a YouTube video.
That's the working class repair kit there.
Duct tape, hope, and a man named Gary on YouTube. At the end of the day, we have to ask one simple question. Are they trying to lift people or protect the pile?
Yeah, that's the question there, Dave.
Because not every billionaire is evil.
Right.
Not every wealthy person is corrupt.
Correct.
Not every business leader is trying to manipulate people.
Absolutely.
But when a person has extreme wealth, starts using their wealth to shape public policy, public opinion, public belief, and public priorities, the public has every right to examine the motive.
Yeah, because charity does not erase self-interest.
A good speech doesn't erase lobbying.
A foundation does not erase exploitation.
A tax-deductible donation doesn't automatically make a person morally clean.
You can't launder character through a press release.
Say that again?
You cannot launder character through a press release.
That's it, because some people want the benefit of being called generous while keeping the system that made everyone else desperate.
They hand out blankets while keeping control of the thermostat, or they throw out paper towels when people have just experienced a hurricane.
That's the truthful manipulation. They create the conditions.
They sponsor the solution.
They profit from the pressure.
They pose as the relief.
They underpay the worker.
Then they donate to the food bank.
They weaken the ladder.
Then they give a commencement speech about climbing.
That's not leadership. That's reputation management with better lighting. Hey, it's Dave. If today's episode's making you laugh a little and think a lot, that's exactly what we're trying to do with truthful manipulation. Because manipulation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's polite. Sometimes it wears a suit. And sometimes it smiles for the camera. Sometimes it says, I'm only trying to help while reaching for your wallet, your vote, your loyalty, and your silence. That's why our work matters. The book, the podcast, the conversation, the workshops. The uncomfortable questions, the laughs that keep us from crying too hard.
That last part is important, Dave.
Very important. So pick up Truthful Manipulation, a roadmap to live by. Share the podcast. Start a conversation with somebody who still believes every rich person with a microphone is automatically a prophet.
And please, if they own a yacht named the Halo Effect, send us a picture.
We'll frame it. Truthful Manipulation, awareness with integrity. And now, back to the conclusion of this week's episode.
Now we need to get into the part of the show that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, the family dinner part.
Exactly.
The part where somebody puts down their fork and says, well, actually.
And now the green beans are in danger.
Why do normal people defend billionaires' interest?
Part of it is aspiration.
Part of it's identity.
Part of it is messaging.
And part of it's fear.
Because people are afraid that if you challenge the billionaire, you challenge the dream.
And if you challenge the dream, you have to admit that the game might not be fair.
And if you admit the game might not be fair, you might have to ask who designed it.
And if you ask who designed it, you may find out that the person selling you hope owns the toll booth.
That's the hard part there.
It's easier to believe a billionaire earned every inch of the mountain than admit some people were born halfway up it.
And some people were born with climbing gear.
With a helicopter.
And a weather report.
And a guide named Preston.
Meanwhile, normal people are climbing in work boots from 1998.
With one granola bar and a motivational quote.
Rise and grind.
I hate that phrase.
You've mentioned this before.
Rise and grind sounds like something a coffee bean says before trauma.
But here's the serious point. If people believe the billionaire is proof that the system works, they may ignore all the ways the system fails them.
That's right. The billionaire becomes a symbol.
A symbol of possibility.
But also a shield.
A shield against criticism.
Because anytime you criticize extreme wealth, somebody says, you're just jealous.
That is one of the laziest defenses in the world.
It is. Wanting accountability is not jealousy.
Wanting fairness is not envy.
Wanting people with power to stop writing rules for everyone else is not bitterness.
It's citizenship.
So how do we protect ourselves from billionaires' bull dressed up as wisdom?
We ask better questions.
Exactly. Question 1. Who benefits if I believe this?
That question cuts through a lot of fog.
If a billionaire tells you taxes are theft, ask them, who benefits if you believe that?
If a billionaire tells you workers are asking for too much, ask who benefits if you believe it.
If a billionaire tells you regulations are always bad, ask who benefits if you believe that. Question 2. What are they not saying?
Because manipulation often lives in the missing sentence.
They tell you that regulation hurts business.
They may not tell you the regulation protects water.
They tell you that tax cuts create growth.
They may not tell you where the growth goes.
And they tell you that company needs flexibility.
They may not tell you flexibility for them means instability for you.
Question 3. Do they live with the consequences of what they recommend?
Yeah, now that's the key one there, Dave.
If their advice fails, do they suffer?
Or do they get a bonus?
If their policies hurts workers, do they feel it?
Or do they issue a statement?
If their vision damages communities, do they live there?
Or do they fly over it?
Question 4. Are they using fear as facts?
Fear is a shortcut.
Fear gets people moving before they start thinking.
And fear is one of manipulation's favorite tools.
They'll say, if you don't do this, jobs will disappear.
Companies will leave.
The economy will collapse.
The sky will fall.
And apparently, the sky is always falling right before a billionaire asks for another tax break. Question 5. Does this protect people or protect the pile?
That brings us back to the core.
Because the pile has enough bodyguards.
Normal people need protection too, you know.
Workers need protection.
Families need protection.
Communities need protection.
Truth needs protection.
And integrity needs protection.
Here's an even bigger concern, ladies and gentlemen. When wealth becomes political power, democracy starts to look less like a public square and more like a boardroom.
And in a boardroom, everybody doesn't get an equal vote.
Exactly.
The person with the most shares usually gets the most say.
But democracy is not supposed to work that way.
One person, one vote.
Not $1, one megaphone.
That's why billionaires' influence matters. It's not just about jealousy.
It's not about punishing success.
It's not about hating wealth.
It's about asking whether concentrated money has become concentrated control.
But when the same people who benefit from the rules are the people writing the rules, normal people better pay attention.
That's not anti-business.
That's pro-accountability.
That's not anti-success.
That's pro-democracy.
That's not class warfare.
That's class awareness.
Now that line needs a minute. Think about it.
Class awareness. Because if you don't understand where you stand, somebody else will tell you where to stand.
And they'll probably put you somewhere convenient for them.
Yeah, usually near the bill.
We should also make a distinction here.
Important.
Ownership is not the same as leadership.
Owning something means you control an asset.
Leadership means people trust you with consequences.
Ownership asks, what can this produce for me?
Leadership asks, what responsibility do I carry because of my power?
Ownership can be legal.
Leadership must be moral.
A billionaire can own buildings, platforms, companies, and private islands.
It still doesn't mean they own wisdom.
They can own factories.
Still doesn't mean they understand workers.
They can own media.
It still doesn't mean they own the truth.
They can own influence.
Still doesn't mean that they deserve trust.
And that's where normal people have to reclaim their judgment. Stop outsourcing your common sense to people who profit from your confusion.
Now that's a punchline and a warning, Dave.
It is.
Say it again.
Stop outsourcing your common sense to people who profit from your confusion.
Let's imagine a billionaire advice column for normal people.
Oh, this'll be painful.
Dear billionaire, my rent is up. Groceries are expensive. Health insurance is confusing. And I'm worried about retirement. What should I do?
Great question. Have you considered monetizing your anxiety?
Dear billionaire, my car broke down and I can't afford the repair.
Simple. Buy a car company.
Dear billionaire, I work 2 jobs and still can't get ahead.
Wake up at 3:30 a.m., take a cold plunge, journal your excuses, and inherit seed capital.
Dear billionaire, my student loans are crushing me.
Have you tried not being poor?
Dave,
I'm channeling the energy.
it's too accurate, man.
That's why it hurts.
Dear billionaire, I want to start a business, but I don't have family money.
I'm sorry. I don't understand the question.
Now, obviously, not every billionaire thinks like that.
Correct.
But the comedy exposes something real here.
Distance distorts advice.
Exactly.
The farther someone's from your reality, the more careful you should be when you claim to understand your reality. Here's what normal people should remember. Number 1, money is not morality.
Number 2, success is not sainthood.
Number 3, confidence is not truth.
Number 4, influence is not integrity.
Number 5, charity is not the same as justice.
And number 6, a billionaire may understand money, but that does not mean they understand your life.
They may understand profit,
but not your pressure.
They may understand markets,
but not your medical bills.
They may understand leverage,
but not your late fees.
They may understand growth,
but not your grocery receipts.
They may understand power,
but not your exhaustion.
The question isn't whether they're smart.
And some are very smart.
The question isn't whether they worked hard.
And some of them did.
The question isn't whether they built something impressive.
And some absolutely did that.
The question is, should they be allowed to translate their wealth into authority over everybody else's lives?
And that's key for us to consider.
So why do billionaires think they know best for normal people? Because the world keeps rewarding them as if money equals wisdom. Because people around them often confuse wealth with worth. Because power isolates. Because isolation feels like superiority when nobody tells you the truth.
And why do normal people buy it? Because the message is packaged beautifully. Freedom, innovation, opportunity, patriotism, job creation, efficiency.
But under the packaging, normal people have to ask one thing. Are they trying to lift the people or protect the pile?
Yeah, because billionaires may understand money.
But that doesn't mean they understand justice.
They may even understand markets.
But that doesn't mean they understand sacrifice.
They may say they understand influence.
But that doesn't mean they understand integrity.
And it sure doesn't mean that they should write the rules for people whose lives they no longer live.
And that's the heart of it all. Normal people have to stop mistaking wealth for wisdom.
Stop mistaking confidence for character.
Stop mistaking charity for justice.
Stop mistaking a billionaire's self-interest for a national vision.
Because the most dangerous manipulation is not the lie that sounds false. It's the lie that sounds like opportunity.
So the next time somebody with extreme wealth tells you what normal people need, don't just listen to the words.
Listen to the motive.
Listen for the missing sentence.
Listen for who benefits.
Listen for who pays.
Listen for who sacrifice.
Listen for who gets protected.
And listen for whether or not the word we includes you or uses you.
That's good.
Thank you.
You almost sounded like you own a yacht.
I don't own a yacht. I own a gas bill and a suspicious noise in the garage.
That's much more relatable.
And honestly, the garage noise has more integrity than some billionaires.
On that note, dear audience, thank you for listening to the Truthful Manipulation Podcast,
where we believe truth still matters.
Integrity still matters.
And normal people should never let powerful people rent space in their minds without checking the lease.
That may be the most powerful sentence ever, Dave.
I stand by it.
Share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it.
Pick up the book.
Start the conversation.
Question the packaging.
Protect your integrity.
And remember, Money can buy a microphone, but it can't buy the truth. And that's this week's episode of Truthful Manipulation. Please comment on today's episode at truthfulmanipulation@gmail.com. Pick up a copy of our book, Truthful Manipulation, A Roadmap to Live By. It'll help you see these manipulations in the Billionaires' Bull. You can like, share, and subscribe at truthfulmanipulation.com. And remember, we're here protecting your integrity. And thank you for listening as we go through another confusing week.